overwhelmed. It was a bit of it wasn't quite a surprise, but it was certainly, the shock of it when I saw the pressure readings on the device and the doctor kind of looking a bit worried and, giving me some drops and then measuring the pressure again, 15 minutes later. So that was definitely eye-opening and sort of life-changing subsequent to that. But it's definitely been a journey. So it started off, with, I had a retinal detachment in 2023, which was spontaneous. And I had a couple of surgeries, got it repaired, everything looked really good. Then I had cataract surgery subsequent to that. And after cataract surgery, I came back for a follow-up appointment and my pressure was elevated. And that's when, they seemed a bit worried and I was increased my dosage of drops because I was on some drops before that. And then after that, the pressure really was out of control. And I was referred to a glaucoma specialist. And it was really difficult to find an appointment. It took me almost 2 months to find a doctor that could see me right away. And I remember my primary ophthalmologist was like, we need to find one very quickly because, the initial appointment schedule that I had, which was 6 months out, and he's like, you don't have 6 months for your vision. So finally I had to take matters in my own hand and I started researching stuff on the internet. And I came across the Glaucoma Research Foundation and I actually viewed a YouTube video of a Q&A session at one of these events. And there was a doctor there out of Los Angeles that was speaking. And so I found the doctor and called the office, made an appointment. And he was able to see me relatively quickly, I think within 2 weeks. And so that's when, my journey started, and legitimately. And I had several procedures done, and we can talk about those in more detail. But it was definitely an experience that lasts, it's still going on. But I'm in a much better place now after 3 different procedures and, drops. It's stabilized to where now I am, in a good place and the visual field's stable. So yeah, I'm just following up, staying on top of my medications, and just really keeping a very close eye on the progression because that's kind of a lifetime commitment that you have to make. I think learning the complexity of the disease and particularly the kind of the neuroscience behind it was really mind-blowing. Like when I was watching these videos and the catalyst for cure and all the things that have been going on, it really kind of opened my eyes to realize that this is not something simple. There's no quick fix for it. It's not like, you broke your leg and you can get it fixed and go back to running. It doesn't work that way. And so it's a process, and you really have to work together with your doctor, keep the lines of communication open, and be on the lookout for these new procedures and new devices that are out there in the marketplace, and trying to see what works for you. And that's what I've done. And my doctor's been extremely supportive of me getting second opinions and refer me to other doctors, and we would together agree on what we should do next, or if we need to do anything next. So I think that's been really good. And as I learned the complexity of disease, you learn how to treat it and how to monitor it. So I've gotten a tonometer that I measure my pressure at home, and that's really been a game changer for me to understand the fluctuations throughout the day and night especially. And I've now tailored my schedule of medication according to that. So I don't take drops during the day, I take drops during the night. So I'd wake up in the middle of the night and take drops. And so that's kept my pressure much better under control than otherwise it would have been. So I think that that's been critical in my personal journey, and I would certainly recommend anyone to look into those options that exist. A cure for glaucoma would mean, really a life-changing experience. You think of what it was when you were a child, or even, 5 years ago, where the vision was. And I had thick glasses, but, it was perfectly fine. So kind of reminiscing of those old days and thinking, is there a possibility to restore some of the vision that was lost? Thankfully, in my case, it's been mostly peripheral, but it makes a big difference. I have a second eye that's nearly perfect, so I don't have that level of sort of disability in my day-to-day life. But it's certainly limiting because, this other eye that's been under such stress due to glaucoma, I do worry sometimes, will I be able to get my driver's license renewed? Things of that nature. And certainly peripherally, as you're driving, things like that are of concern. And I'm relatively young. I'm 47 years old, and so, what will happen in 15 years and 20 years? So those are the questions that I think, when I think of a cure for glaucoma, that's what I look forward to, is the ability to not worry about this and bring back, even part of that vision that was lost, or stop any, future deterioration. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Patient to patient is very important because everyone's journey is different, and I think that speaking with someone who's been through this or similar journey that I have, and learning what they've done different, or maybe they've seen a doctor, or they've done a procedure that I haven't heard of, or they've attacked the problem in a certain way, is certainly worth learning about, and speaking to other patients. That kind of opens up different experiences. And doctors can give you a lot of great advice, but they don't know it all, right? Because it's a field that's relatively thinly researched, and only now we're learning the complexities. And so, a lot of times, even my own doctor will say that, yeah, I'm learning something from you. Like, what you're telling me is really interesting, and let's try this and see what happens. And if it works, okay, we'll stick with that. So that's something that I think, is worth communicating and letting other people know that, hey, these are the things that you need to think about. And one thing that I've particularly learned in my case is that you really need to measure your pressure at different points throughout the day, and finding out what activities that you're doing that could be changing it. Like sitting in front of a computer for 3 hours straight, does that raise your pressure? Potentially, yes. Going out for a walk, does that lower the pressure? Potentially, yes. So things of that nature can then help you adjust your lifestyle and your daily schedule, even your sleeping patterns, to help you manage your condition. The main thing that I learned is that sitting in front of the computer and staring at a screen, which my job entails, is not a good thing. So being able to take breaks every 20 to 25 minutes, take a walk, get up, go up and down the stairs, going outside is really helpful. The other thing that I've learned is that the pressure goes up at night. So really being able to wake up at 3 a.m., measure your pressure, and take the drops is phenomenal, because when you wake up at 6 and take the pressure again, it's pretty good. But if you sleep through the night, you wake up in the morning, the pressure is double. So that's what I've learned from personal experience. And, and my doctor seconded that. The Glaucoma Patient Summit is a must-attend event, because you learn a lot of things that, you're not going to all get them by researching on Google, for instance, right? You can get a lot of information online, but when it's all put together nicely in a package and presented by, renowned doctors and other patients that have been through this, and really seeing the connection between, a theoretical condition that you learn in a textbook, and then a doctor explaining it, and then a patient explaining how they live with it, is really important. And connecting with other patients and learning what they're doing and how they're approaching their treatment is critical. For instance, today I learned about a new procedure that I've never heard about that potentially could be interesting for me. And so on my next appointment, I'm going to mention it to my doctor. He's always interested in me asking these intelligent questions. So that's, even if I walk away with that single lesson learned, would be fantastic, because you never know, that could help me 6 months down the road if I need to have a procedure, or as we're discussing kind of next steps in my care. So I think that's very important.